Hey Bulldogs, Chris Bryant here. Got a double header here for you really, a CCNA and CCNP ROUTE practice exam and a practical lab to go with it. And you might want to grab a number 2 pencil or something if you didn't bring one to class today, like I told you. And you're going to have to answer 4 questions on these addresses, so you might want to write them down as we head into this lab. And here you go. We're going to start with an Ethernet interface with an IP address of 172.111/24. We're going to follow that with a serial interface with an IP address of 145.111/25. We're going to follow that with a loopback interface with an address of all 7s with a /30 mask. And then work with another Ethernet interface with an IP address of 100.111/24. Now the questions I have for you, if you need to pause the video for a moment and write those down, that's great because the questions are going to be on another screen. And here they are. First off, assuming that all physical interfaces are enabled with OSPF, first off, what is the default RID of this OSPF process? Assuming that all 4 interfaces again are in the same process. Second, if the interface with the default RID wasn't there, if the answer to number 1, the interface just went away, or wasn't considered, what would the RID then be? Question 3, what's the only way to hard code the RID? And question 4, do you have to do anything after hard coding the RID to make it take effect? And we're going to take a look at the answers to that on live Cisco routers in just a moment. As you saw when this particular video opened, I've got almost 10,000 students in my Udemy courses, and thank you so much for that great support. Got a couple of great specials right now. My CCNP all-in-one video boot camp. If you click redeem it and put in food bank, you are getting this entire course for $99. That's about $2 an hour. You're never going to beat that, especially with my world-class training. And for you CCNAers, don't feel left out, because if you use Bulldog 60 for your code, you're getting into that full course over 22 hours of video training for $44. Also, plenty of free courses. I'll bring that screen up again as we conclude this so you can check out the full list of free and paid courses. Now let's go through this and see. We've got to review these rules for the OSPF RID. And if you're assuming that all physical interfaces are enabled with OSPF, the default RID here is still going to be 7777. It's going to be the IP address of the loopback interface. This is one of my favorite questions to ask, and I've made sure to come back to it over the years that I've been doing this, because when I started studying it, I just couldn't wrap my head around this part. That even if a loopback interface is not OSPF enabled, its address can still serve as the OSPF RID. So the rule is, if you have loopback interfaces, then the highest IP address on any of the loopbacks is going to be your RID, regardless of whether you're running OSPF on that loopback or not. Doesn't matter. And if you only have one loopback interface, then that's going to be your RID. So the RID starting off here would be the all 7s address. Now question 2, if the interface with the default RID was not there, what would the RID then be? Well, if we didn't have a loopback interface in here to begin with, then that just leaves 3 addresses. Let me edit that real quick. And in this case, it would be the highest IP address of any physical interface, again, that was or wasn't OSPF enabled. It doesn't matter. Now, in this particular question, I did say all physical interfaces are enabled with OSPF. So the answer is going to be 172.111. But even if that interface were not enabled with OSPF, it would still be the RID. Okay, what's the only way to hard code the RID? And then do you have to do anything after hard coding it to make it take effect? Let's bring the live equipment up. And I wanted to show you this. There's a very simple config on here, actually. And just to verify what we were talking about in the previous 2 questions, you can see on this router that I've got a loopback with the all 2s address on it. And I do have an Ethernet interface and a serial interface that are up. And in this particular lab, at this point, I only have the Ethernet segment enabled with OSPF, but it doesn't matter, because hopefully, and let's run show IP OSPF to see, you can see that the RID is actually 2222. Okay, so now we want to hard code that. Let's say we want to make it 22 for each octet for ID purposes. So we would simply go under the OSPF process And believe it or not, and hallelujah, this command has no options. This is it, router ID, and then you just follow it with whatever you want the ID to be. Now, you're going to hit enter, and this is very unusual because almost everything we do on a Cisco router is going to take effect immediately. You don't even have to think about it. But in this case, what you're going to have to do is either reload the router or use the clear IP OSPF process command for this to take effect. And if that sounds like something that would tear down all your adjacencies, you are correct. And let's go ahead and run that because I want to show you just the warning here. I'm not going to go ahead and say yes, but notice a couple things here are kind of odd for Cisco routers. First off, the prompt is saying reset all OSPF processes. Whenever you see capital letters, there, you better watch what you're doing because obviously you're doing something pretty serious. The router is basically yelling at you. Are you really sure about this? And then secondly, note that the prompted answer is no. Anytime you see this, and you don't see it that often, but anytime you're doing something on a router or a switch and the prompt to the question the device is asking you is no, that means you better be really sure you want to do it. So if I went ahead and did that, it would clear the adjacencies down, and then this router ID would take effect when it came back up. And that is it for this particular video practice exam and lab. Thanks for watching. And like I said, come out and check me out at Udemy. There are plenty of free courses there as well. Everything is affordable if it's not already free, and I look forward to seeing you out there. I'm Chris Bryant. Thanks for making TBA part of your CCNA and CCNP success story.